The morning after the demonstration, Minho woke to find his datapad flooded with messages. Most were from other human cadets congratulating him. A few were from alien cadets asking questions about human improvisation techniques, but there were also several official notifications. The Academy Safety Committee wanted to meet with him. 3 different instructors had requested his presence, and there was a formal summons from Admiral Krendel, the Velkari officer who oversaw the entire academy. "You're famous," Tyke said from his bed, scrolling through his own datapad. "Or infamous. Hard to tell which." "What's that supposed to mean?" Minho asked. Tyke turned his datapad around, showing Minho a news article. The headline read, "Human Cadet Demonstrates Improvised Weapons Capability, Safety Concerns Raised." Minho's stomach sank as he read. The article discussed his demonstration but framed it differently than he had intended. It focused on the fact that humans could weaponize common items found throughout the galaxy. It mentioned that such improvisation techniques were unpredictable and potentially dangerous in a military setting where trust between species is essential. "They're scared," Minho said quietly. "Can you blame them?" Tyke replied. "You basically told everyone that humans can turn anything into a weapon. That's not exactly comforting to species who have to share ships and stations with us." At breakfast in the cadet mess hall, Minho noticed the change immediately. Tables that usually had mixed species were now more segregated. The area where humans typically sat was emptier than usual, with a noticeable gap between them and other species. Yan sat down across from Minho with her food tray. "People are avoiding us," she said bluntly. "I noticed. Is this what you wanted?" She asked. "To make everyone afraid of humans?" "That's not what I was trying to do," Minho said defensively. "I was just showing what makes us unique." "You showed them we're dangerous," Yan countered. "There's a difference." Before Minho could respond, a familiar voice interrupted them. "May I sit?" They looked up to see Instructor Velthar standing beside their table. His crystalline form cast rainbow patterns across their food trays. Several nearby conversations stopped as other cadets watched. "Of course, sir," Minho said. Velthar's massive frame settled into a chair designed for larger species. "Cadet Minho, I wanted to speak with you about yesterday's demonstration. It has caused quite a reaction. I'm beginning to understand that, sir." "Do you regret it?" Velthar asked directly. Minho thought about this carefully. "No, sir. I showed the truth about human capabilities. If that makes people uncomfortable, maybe they needed to be uncomfortable." Velthar's body shimmered, which Minho had learned indicated thoughtfulness. An interesting perspective. But consider this. The other species presented weapons that are part of their biology, extensions of themselves. You presented a philosophy, a way of thinking. Do you understand why that might be more frightening? Because they can't predict it, Minho said slowly, understanding dawning. A Drachnian spear has limits. My approach doesn't, exactly. They can train against known weapons. They cannot train against unlimited improvisation. Velthar stood. "The Admiral wants to see you at 1400 hours. I suggest you think carefully about what you want to say." After classes ended, Minho made his way to the Admiral's office. The corridors seemed longer than usual, and he passed several groups of cadets who stopped talking when they saw him. A few nodded respectfully. Others just stared. Admiral Krendel's office was large and sparse, designed in the Velkari style. The Admiral herself was an imposing figure, insectoid and armored, with 4 arms and multifaceted eyes that seemed to look in multiple directions at once. Cadet Minho reporting as ordered. "Sir," Minho said, standing at attention. "At ease," the Admiral clicked, her translator rendering it in standard language. "Sit." Minho sat in the human-sized chair facing her desk. "Your demonstration has created a situation," the Admiral said without preamble. "In the past 24 hours, I have received 14 formal complaints from various species representatives. They say humans represent an unpredictable security risk." Minho's heart sank. "Sir, I was only demonstrating human capability as instructed." "I know. That is what concerns them." The Admiral's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "They are not complaining that you violated any rules. They are complaining that you showed humans think differently than they expected." "Is that a bad thing, sir?" "That depends. Tell me, Cadet Minho, do you believe humans are dangerous?" Minho considered the question carefully. "Every species in the Coalition is dangerous, sir. That's why we're all at a military academy. The question isn't whether we're dangerous. It's whether we can be trusted. And can humans be trusted? Yes, sir. We've proven that over 5 years of coalition membership. We honor our agreements. We follow orders. We work well with other species. The fact that we think creatively doesn't change any of that. The Admiral was silent for a moment, her multiple eyes studying him. There will be a formal inquiry tomorrow. Representatives from several species will question you about human weapons philosophy and improvisation capabilities. They will try to determine if humans should remain at this academy. Minho felt cold. They want to expel us? Some do. Others simply want assurances. The inquiry will determine which view prevails. She leaned forward, which seemed threatening given her size. Defend your species well, cadet. Humanity's place in the coalition military may depend on it. That evening, Minho met with other humans in a private common room. Word of the inquiry had spread quickly. About 20 human cadets had gathered, their faces reflecting various emotions: anger, fear, determination. "This is ridiculous," one cadet said loudly. "We followed the assignment exactly. Now they're punishing us for doing it well?" "It's not about following assignments," Jiwan said quietly. He had been researching on his datapad throughout the discussion. "I've been reading the Coalition Charter and bylaws. There's a provision allowing species to be removed from military service if they're deemed incompatible with Coalition operational security." "That's vague enough to mean anything," Jan said. "Exactly. Which means they can interpret it however they want." Jiwan looked at Minho. "They're going to argue that human unpredictability makes us a security risk. You need to convince them otherwise." A female cadet named Sora spoke up. She was quiet usually, but she had a reputation for understanding alien psychology. "The problem isn't what you demonstrated. It's what it represents. Their weapons are biological, evolved over millions of years. Yours prove you don't need biology. You need ingenuity. That's terrifying to species who define themselves by their evolved advantages." "So what do I say?" Minho asked. "How do I defend human thinking without making it sound dangerous?" "You don't," Sora replied. "You accept that it is dangerous. But you make them understand it's dangerous to their enemies, not to their allies." The night before the inquiry, Minho couldn't sleep. He kept reviewing what he would say, how he would defend humanity's place at the academy. Around midnight, he gave up trying to sleep and went to the observation deck. He found Vorn there, the Drachnian cadet who had mocked him. Vorn was staring out at the stars, his glowing eyes reflecting in the glass. "Cadet Minho," Vorn said without turning around. "Cannot sleep?" "No, you?" "I am thinking about your demonstration." Vorn finally turned to face him. "I owe you an apology. I mocked you before your presentation. I assumed humans had nothing of value to show. I was wrong. Minho hadn't expected this. Thank you. But I must also tell you that I am one of those who filed a complaint," Vorn continued. "Not because I think you are bad soldiers, because I think you are too good at things I do not understand. My people value strength and honor. We fight directly. Your way of fighting this improvisation feels like deception to me." "It's not deception," Minho said. "It's adaptation, using what's available to solve problems. To you, perhaps. To us, it seems unpredictable, dangerous." Vorn's eyes glowed brighter. "Tomorrow you will try to convince us humans can be trusted. I hope you succeed, but understand that you must overcome millions of years of instinct that tells us unpredictable equals threat. Then I'll have to show you that unpredictable can also equal ally," Minho said. The inquiry hearing was held in a formal chamber, designed to accommodate representatives from multiple species. Minho sat alone at a table facing a panel of 7 officials representing different coalition members. Behind him, the gallery was filled with cadets and instructors watching the proceedings. A Prismian official named Thelvia led the questioning. Her crystalline form was sharp and angular, her voice clear and cutting. "Cadet Minho, you demonstrated that humans can create weapons from common items. Can you give us an estimate of how many items on a standard coalition vessel could be weaponized using human methods?" Minho took a breath. "Almost everything, if you're creative enough." Worried murmurs filled the gallery. Thelvia's form seemed to sharpen further. "That is precisely what concerns us. You're saying humans can turn a ship against its own crew using only materials already present. So could any species with enough creativity," Minho countered. "The ability to improvise isn't unique to humans. We're just more practiced at it. Why are you more practiced? Another panel member asked, a Velkari official. Because we had to be, Minho replied. The demonstration week began on a Monday morning. The auditorium was packed with cadets from every species, all curious to see what their classmates would present. Minho sat with the other humans in their designated section, watching as the first species took the stage. The Drachnians went first. Vorn stepped forward, carrying what looked like a spear made of dark metal. But when he gripped it with both hands, electricity began to dance along its length. Blue-white energy crackled and sparked, lighting up the dim stage. This is a discharge spear, Vorn explained, his voice proud. Our ancestors developed these to channel our natural bioelectric abilities. We generate the power ourselves. The spear focuses and extends it. He demonstrated by thrusting the spear toward a target dummy. A bolt of electricity shot forward, scorching the dummy and leaving a smoking hole. The audience applauded, impressed by the display of raw power. Next came the Prismians. A tall crystalline being named Kessa walked onto the stage carrying nothing. That seemed strange until she raised her arm. Her crystalline body began to glow and light bent around her hand. Slowly, a blade of pure light formed, extending from her palm. It looked like concentrated rainbow, beautiful and deadly. Our light blades grow from our own bodies, Kessa explained. They can cut through almost any material. We developed them over millions of years of evolution. They are part of us. She sliced through a metal bar with ease, the light blade passing through it like it was paper. More applause followed. The Velkari demonstrated next. These were insectoid beings with hard exoskeletons and multiple limbs. Their representative, a warrior named Sektar, wore metal claws attached to his four arms. But these weren't simple weapons. They vibrated at incredibly high frequencies, creating a sound that made Minho's teeth hurt. Molecular disruption claws, Sektar clicked in his strange language, translated by the auditorium systems. They break apart matter at the molecular level. Very effective. He touched a stone block with one claw and the block simply crumbled into dust. The audience murmured with appreciation. Species after species took the stage. Each one presented weapons that were extensions of their natural abilities. The aquatic Nalshi showed sonic weapons that used sound waves. The flying Kree demonstrated razor-sharp feathers they could launch like projectiles. Every weapon was impressive in its own way. During a break, the human cadets gathered in a side room. Hien was pacing, her expression tense. We can't compete with that, she said. They're showing weapons that are literally part of their biology. What do we have? Metal and chemistry? That's exactly what we have, Jawan said. He was sitting at a table looking through files on a datapad. I've been researching. Human weapons evolved differently because we evolved differently. We don't have claws or bioelectric powers. We had to use our brains, and what do we show? Tyke asked. I was thinking we could demonstrate a katana. Those are impressive, right? The folded steel technique is pretty advanced. It's a metal sword, Hyun said flatly. They have blades made of light. A metal sword isn't going to impress anyone. What about guns? Another cadet suggested. Modern rifles are powerful. Still just chemical propulsion, Hyun countered. Primitive compared to their plasma weapons. Minho had been quiet, listening to the discussion. Now he spoke up. What if we're thinking about this wrong? Everyone turned to look at him. They're all showing weapons that evolved with them, Minho continued. Biological advantages that took millions of years to develop. But that's not what makes human weapons special. We don't wait millions of years. We adapt. What do you mean? Shiwan asked, leaning forward with interest. I mean, we show them that humans can make weapons out of anything. We don't need special biology. We just need creativity, Hyun frowned. That's a nice philosophy, but we still need to demonstrate something specific. The presentations are tomorrow. I know what to demonstrate, Minho said, but I need to do it my way. Trust me. The next day, the human demonstrations began. Hyun went first, presenting a compound bow. She explained the tension mechanics and demonstrated its accuracy by hitting 3 targets in rapid succession. The audience seemed mildly impressed, but not amazed. It was, after all, just a bow. Tyke followed with a katana. He explained the steel folding process and demonstrated some cutting techniques. Again, polite applause, but no real excitement. Metal swords were common across many species. Another human cadet demonstrated a modern assault rifle. This got more attention. The kinetic force was significant, and the mechanical precision was admirable. But as one Prismian cadet commented during questions, it was still just controlled explosions. Interesting, but primitive. Then it was Minho's turn. He walked onto the stage carrying a small canvas bag. Nothing else. No sword, no gun, no impressive-looking weapon. Just a bag. The audience murmured with confusion. Instructor Velthar's crystalline features seemed to ripple with curiosity. Cadet Minho, what weapon will you be demonstrating? Minho reached into the bag and pulled out 2 items. He held them up for everyone to see. In his left hand, a small metal lighter. In his right hand, an aerosol spray can. The murmuring grew louder. Some cadets laughed. In the audience, Vorn's voice carried clearly. A grooming product? Is he going to make us smell better before battle? More laughter followed. Even some of the humans looked confused. Jan buried her face in her hands, but Instructor Velthar raised a crystalline hand and the room fell silent. Explain, Cadet Minho. These items are harmless individually, Minho said calmly. The lighter creates a small flame for convenience. The spray can dispense as deodorant or paint or whatever. Harmless everyday items, he paused, looking out at the audience. But humans learned something important in our history. We learned that the most dangerous weapons aren't always the ones designed to be weapons. Sometimes they're just things we make dangerous. I don't understand, Velthar said. How are these items weapons? I need space to demonstrate properly, Minho said. Can we move to the training yard? Velthar considered this, then nodded. Very well. Everyone, to the outdoor training area. The crowd filed out of the auditorium and into the academy's large training yard. Training dummies and targets were set up at various distances. Minho stood in the center, still holding his lighter and spray can. Several hundred cadets and instructors formed a wide circle around him. Minho flicked the lighter and a small flame appeared. Nothing impressive. He held it up so everyone could see. A flame, he said. Small, barely useful. Then he held up the aerosol can in his other hand. He aimed it away from himself, toward the nearest target dummy about 10 feet away. He pressed the nozzle, creating a stream of spray. Still nothing impressive. Now watch, Minho said. This is human innovation. He held the lighter's flame directly in front of the spray can's nozzle. Then he pressed the spray button. A jet of fire erupted from the can, shooting forward like a dragon's breath. The flame extended at least 10 feet, engulfing the target dummy in fire. The dummy ignited immediately, flames consuming the material. The entire training yard went silent. Minho stopped spraying, and the flame disappeared. He looked around at the shocked faces staring at him. This is what human weapons are, he said into the silence. We take harmless things and make them deadly. We improvise, we adapt. Give a human any 2 items and they'll find a way to make a weapon. Instructor Velthar stepped forward, his crystalline body shimmering with what might have been amazement or alarm. You created fire projection from simple everyday items, Velthar said slowly. Items available on any ship, any station, anywhere in the galaxy. Yes, sir, Minho replied. Are you saying humans can weaponize almost anything? Minho nodded. We didn't evolve with claws or venom or bioelectric abilities. We evolved with curiosity and creativity. We make do with what we have. And what we have is usually enough. The training yard remained silent for a long moment. Then Velthar began to make a sound like chiming crystal. Minho realized with surprise that the Prismian was laughing. Unprecedented, Velthar said. In 200 years of teaching this course, no species has ever presented anything like this. Cadet Minho, you have given us much to think about. But as Minho looked around the training yard, he saw that not everyone was impressed. Some faces showed fear. Others showed suspicion. And Vorn, the Drachnian cadet, was staring at him with an expression Minho couldn't quite read. Something had changed today. Minho just wasn't sure if it was a good change or a dangerous one. The shuttle descended toward the massive orbital station, and Minho pressed his face against the window. Station Prometheus stretched out before him like a small city floating in space. Lights twinkled from thousands of windows and ships of every size and shape moved around it like insects around a hive. He had seen pictures, of course, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. First time off Earth? Asked the passenger next to him, another human wearing the same gray cadet uniform. He was taller than Minho, with broad shoulders and an easy smile. That obvious? Minho replied, pulling his gaze from the window. You've got that look. I'm Tyke, by the way. Engineering track. Minho, tactical operations. The shuttle docked with a gentle thump and the passengers began filing out. Minho grabbed his single bag and followed Tyke into the station. The corridor was enormous, with ceilings at least 30 feet high, and it was crowded with beings that made Minho stop and stare despite himself. A group of crystalline creatures walked past, their bodies catching the light and throwing rainbows across the walls. They moved with an odd musical sound like wind chimes. Further down, something that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bear lumbered by, easily 8 feet tall. Its scales were deep red and its eyes glowed with an inner fire. Dracnians, Tech whispered. They're supposed to be the best warriors in the coalition. Great, Minho muttered. No pressure. They followed the signs to the cadet quarters, passing dozens of other species along the way. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some flew, their wings or anti-gravity devices carrying them overhead. Minho had studied the files on 43 different species, but seeing them in person was completely different. The human quarters were in Section 7, a series of rooms designed for oxygen-breathing, gravity-preferring species. Minho found his assigned room and discovered he would be sharing it with Tyke. The room was small but functional, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a shared bathroom. Could be worse, Tyke said, throwing his bag on the left bed. At least we don't have to room with someone who breathes methane. That evening, all the new cadets assembled in the main auditorium for orientation. The room was huge, designed to accommodate different species with different needs. Some seats were filled with water for aquatic beings. Others generated specific atmospheric conditions. The human section was near the middle, and Minho counted about 30 humans in total. A figure walked onto the stage, and the room fell silent. It was one of the crystalline beings, but larger than the others Minho had seen. It stood at least 9 feet tall, and its body seemed to contain storms of color that shifted with each movement. I am Instructor Velthar, the being said, its voice resonating like struck glass. I will be your weapons specialist for your first year. Welcome to the Galactic Military Academy. Velthar began explaining the structure of the program. Basic training would last 6 months, covering everything from ship operations to hand-to-hand combat. But there was one requirement that caught Minho's attention. Each species must complete the Basic Weapons Proficiency course, Velthar said. This course teaches you about your people's fundamental approach to warfare. You will study and demonstrate the primitive weapons your ancestors used before modern technology. Minho glanced around the room. The other species seemed excited about this. A Dracnian near the front was nodding eagerly, his glowing eyes bright. This is not about nostalgia, Velthar continued. Understanding your basic weapons teaches you your species' core combat philosophy. The Dracnians, for example, will demonstrate their energy discharge spears. The Prismians will show our light blades. Each weapon reveals something essential about how your people approach conflict. A hand went up in the Dracnian section. What about the humans? The cadet asked, his voice deep and rough. What weapons will they show? Minho felt dozens of eyes turn toward the human section. Velthar's crystalline features shifted in what might have been a smile. The humans will demonstrate last, Velthar said, to give them adequate time to prepare something appropriate for this academy. There was laughter from several sections of the auditorium. Not cruel laughter exactly, but the kind of amusement that came from low expectations. Minho felt his face heat up, but he kept his expression neutral. After the orientation ended, Minho walked back to his quarters with Tyke and a small group of other humans. One of them, a young woman with sharp eyes and short black hair, was shaking her head. Did you hear that? She said. Give us time to prepare something appropriate, like we're children who need extra help. I'm Hyun, she added, glancing at Minho. And I don't appreciate being talked down to. Maybe he didn't mean it that way, Tyke offered. He definitely meant it that way, said another human, a thin man with glasses. I'm G1, Xenohistory Track. I've been studying the Coalition for years. Most of these species think Earth is a backwater. They're not trying to be mean. They genuinely don't expect much from us. Then we'll surprise them, Minho said quietly. Hyun looked at him with interest. You have something in mind? Not yet, but I will. Over the next few days, Minho settled into academy life. The schedule was brutal. Physical training started at 600 hours, followed by classes in military theory, xenolinguistics, ship systems, and combat tactics. The instructors were demanding and they showed no favoritism to any species. But Minho noticed something. In physical combat, the humans struggled against species with natural advantages. The Dracnians were stronger. The Velkari were faster. The Prismians could create weapons from their own bodies. Humans had no special abilities, no biological advantages. They were just ordinary. One afternoon, Minho was walking back from combat practice, nursing a bruised shoulder, when he encountered a group of Drachnian cadets. The one in the lead was the same one who had asked about human weapons during orientation. His name tag read Vorn. Human, Vorn said, not unkindly. You fought well today. For your species. Thanks, Minho said, trying to move past. I am curious, Vorn continued, blocking his path. What will you demonstrate for basic weapons proficiency? Will it be sharpened sticks? Thrown rocks? The other Drachnians laughed. Minho took a breath, keeping his temper in check. You'll see when it's our turn, he said. I hope it is at least interesting, Vorn said. It would be sad if humans have nothing to offer. After they left, Minho stood in the corridor for a moment. The words stung because there was truth in them. What could humans demonstrate? Their guns were impressive by Earth standards but primitive compared to plasma rifles. Their swords were sharp but nothing compared to energy blades. That night, Minho lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. Tyke was already asleep, snoring softly. Minho's mind raced through possibilities. What made human weapons special? What made humans special? Then it hit him. Humans weren't special because of their weapons. Humans were special because they could make weapons out of anything. They adapted. They improvised. They took what they had and made it work. Minho smiled in the darkness. He knew exactly what to demonstrate. The next morning, he requested access to the Academy's historical database and the Earth Supply Depot. When Velthar approved his request without question, Minho's smile grew wider. He had 1 week to prepare, and he was going to make it count. Admiral Krendall stood before the assembled inquiry panel and gallery the next morning. The chamber was even more crowded than the day before, with cadets and instructors from every species pressing in to hear the decision. Minho sat at the same table, his hands clasped tightly in his lap, trying to keep his expression neutral. The panel has reached a decision, the Admiral announced, her translator rendering her clicking speech into clear standard language. After reviewing all testimony and deliberating through the night, we have determined the following. The chamber was absolutely silent. Minho could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. The concerns raised about human unpredictability are valid, the Admiral continued. Minho felt his stomach drop. However, the panel concludes that this unpredictability represents not a liability, but an untapped strategic asset. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Minho blinked, not quite believing what he was hearing. Therefore, humans will not only remain at this academy, they will be integrated into a new experimental program. The Admiral's multifaceted eyes seemed to focus on Minho. Effective immediately, the Coalition Military Academy will establish the Asymmetric Warfare Division. This division will study and teach unconventional tactics, improvised weapons, and adaptive combat strategies. The human approach to warfare will become part of our standard curriculum. The chamber erupted. Some cadets cheered. Others shouted in protest. The Admiral raised one of her forearms and the noise subsided. Cadet Minho, she said, you started this conversation. You will help finish it. You are hereby appointed as Assistant Instructor for the Asymmetric Warfare Division. You will work with senior staff to develop the curriculum. Do you accept this assignment? Minho stood, his legs feeling unsteady. Yes, sir. I accept. Good. Report to Training Complex 7 tomorrow morning. You have work to do. 3 months passed quickly. The Asymmetric Warfare Division, which everyone started calling the AWD, became the most talked about program at the Academy. Minho worked alongside instructor Velthar and several other senior instructors to design courses that taught improvisation and creative problem solving. Hyun was recruited to help teach tactical applications. Tyke joined to teach engineering improvisation. Sora came aboard to handle the psychological aspects of asymmetric warfare, together with alien instructors who brought their own perspectives. They created something entirely new in coalition military training. The first experimental class had 20 students, a mix of species chosen for their ability to think creatively. Minho stood before them on the first day of class, feeling strange to be on this side of the instructor's desk. Welcome to Asymmetric Warfare Division, he began. This class is different from your other courses. We're not going to teach you how to use weapons. We're going to teach you how to think about weapons differently. A Prismian student named Ven raised her hand. What does that mean exactly? It means we're going to teach you to see the entire environment as your arsenal, Minho replied. He gestured around the classroom. Right now in this room there are at least 50 items that could be used as weapons. Your job over the next few weeks is to learn to see them, to understand that a weapon isn't just something designed to hurt, it's anything you can use to solve a problem. A Dracnian student looked skeptical. This sounds like fighting without honor. This is fighting to win. Hyon interjected from where she stood beside Minho. Honor is important, but so is survival. This course teaches you to survive when everything else fails. The classes were challenging for everyone, instructors included. Many alien students struggled with concepts that came naturally to humans. They had been raised with the idea that weapons were specific tools designed for specific purposes. The human idea that anything could be a weapon was difficult for them to grasp. But some students excelled. Ven, the young Prismian, proved especially talented. One day during training exercises, she combined her natural ability to refract light with human misdirection tactics. She created multiple light projections of herself, confusing training drones that were trying to target her. It was a technique no Prismian had ever used before. I never thought to use my abilities this way, Ven said excitedly after the exercise. We always just use them for combat directly. But making copies of myself, that's indirect. That's clever. That's the point, Minho said, genuinely pleased. You took your natural ability and combined it with a human approach. That's what this division is about. Not making you human, but teaching you to think beyond your limitations. Not all students adapted so well. Kral, a large Dracnian, consistently failed exercises because he relied too much on brute force. He struggled with the concept of subtlety and misdirection. My strength is my weapon, Kral argued after failing another simulation. Why should I use tricks? Because sometimes strength isn't enough, Minho replied. What happens when you face an enemy stronger than you? What happens when your weapons fail? You need backup options. I have never faced an enemy stronger than me, Kral said proudly. Then you're lucky, Tyke interjected. But luck runs out. This training is for when luck runs out. Surprisingly, Vorn requested to join the second class that started a month later. Minho was skeptical at first, remembering their early antagonism. But Vorn proved to be a dedicated student. I was wrong about humans, Vorn admitted one day during a break. I thought your way of fighting was cowardice. Now I understand it is intelligence. There is no shame in using your mind as a weapon. What changed your perspective? Minho asked. I watched Ven in training, Vorn replied. She is Prismian, not human, but she learned your methods. She became better. Not weaker, better. That made me realize if this helps her, why not me? The division's reputation spread beyond the academy. Other coalition military installations began requesting information about the program. Some officers wanted to implement similar training. Others remained skeptical or openly hostile. One afternoon, Admiral Krendal summoned Minho to her office. When he arrived, he found Instructor Velthar already there, along with several other high-ranking officers. Cadet Minho, the Admiral began, I have been authorized by Coalition Command to expand the Asymmetric Warfare Division significantly. We will be establishing training facilities at 20 other locations within the year. Minho felt a surge of pride. But the Admiral's next words tempered it. However, there is a reason for this expansion beyond academic interest. We face a new threat, and traditional tactics are proving ineffective. A holographic display activated, showing a region of space near the Coalition's outer territories. Red markers indicated attacked colonies and outposts. This is the Convergence, the Admiral explained. A machine intelligence collective. They have begun attacking our outer colonies. Preliminary engagements have been disastrous. Another officer, a Velkari general named Sartek, spoke up. The Convergence adapts. They analyze our tactics during combat and adjust their response within minutes. Our standard strategies become useless almost immediately. Show him the footage from Outpost Kepler, the Admiral commanded. The hologram changed to show battle footage. Coalition ships engaged strange geometric enemy vessels. The Coalition forces used standard attack patterns, tight formations, coordinated plasma fire. For the first few minutes they seemed effective. Then the enemy adapted. They predicted every movement, countered every tactic. The battle became a slaughter. Minho watched with growing horror as ship after ship fell to the Convergence's adapted strategies. This is why we need the AWD, Velthar said. his crystalline voice somber. The convergence can adapt to predictable tactics, but human-style improvisation is inherently unpredictable. It cannot adapt to what it cannot anticipate. The Admiral fixed her multifaceted gaze on Minho. In 3 weeks, a reconnaissance mission will investigate convergence activity near Colony Station Theta 7. The mission will be led by Commander Talvin, but he has requested an AWD team accompany his unit. This will be the first field test of asymmetric warfare tactics against the convergence. Minho felt his mouth go dry. You want us in combat? Not you specifically, the Admiral clarified. You will select a team of 6. 3 humans, 3 aliens from the AWD program. They will demonstrate whether your training methods work in real combat conditions. Admiral, with respect, most of our students are still learning. They're not ready for combat. Then choose the ones who are ready, the Admiral replied. Or should I interpret your hesitation as doubt in your own teaching methods? Minho understood the challenge. The AWD had made bold claims about the value of human-style tactics. Now they had to prove those claims weren't just classroom theory. I'll have a team selected within 48 hours, Minho said. That evening, Minho gathered the human AWD instructors in their private office. Hyun-tak, Sora, and Jiwon listened as he explained the situation. We have to send people into combat, Minho said, his voice strained. People we've been training. And if they fail, if they die, that's on us. If we don't send anyone, the division gets shut down, Hyun said pragmatically. This is our chance to prove the AWD works. At what cost? Sora asked quietly. These are students. Some of them are barely 20 years old. They're soldiers, Tyke countered. All cadets here are training for combat. This is what they signed up for. But are they ready? The reconnaissance ship Horizon's Edge was smaller than Minho expected. It was designed for stealth and speed rather than combat, with a crew of 12 including Minho's 6-person team. Commander Talvin, a veteran Prismian officer, made it clear he was skeptical about bringing Academy students on a combat mission. I requested experienced AWD personnel, Talvin said during the pre-mission briefing. His crystalline form reflected the ship's lights in sharp, cold patterns. Admiral Krendall sent me instructors and students barely out of basic training. We're the most experienced AWD personnel available, Hyun replied coolly. The division is only 3 months old. Talvin's features shifted in what might have been a frown. Then this mission will be a trial by fire for all of us. The journey to Colony Station Theta 7 took 3 days. Minho used the time to drill his team on improvisation scenarios. They practiced building weapons from ship components, creating distractions from common materials, and developing tactical responses that avoided predictable patterns. Vorn proved to be naturally talented at aggressive improvisation. During one exercise, he combined a fire suppression system with a cargo door mechanism to create a makeshift catapult. Human thinking, he said with something like pride. See the purpose, ignore it, find a new purpose. Ven worked on integrating her light refraction abilities with misdirection tactics. She could create multiple illusory copies of herself now, but Minho pushed her to go further. Don't just copy yourself. Copy the enemy, make them shoot each other. Nala focused on technical improvisation. She could rewire ship systems in minutes, turning a communications array into a jamming device or a waste recycler into a chemical smoke generator. My people are good with technology, she said, her mandibles clicking with satisfaction. But we always use it as designed. You taught me to break it and rebuild it better. On the 3rd day, they dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Theta 7. The station appeared on their sensors, a small research outpost orbiting a dead moon. No distress signals, reported the sensor officer. No power signatures. Station appears abandoned. Life signs? Commander Talvin asked. Scanning. Negative. No biological readings. No bodies either. Then where did everyone go? Tyke muttered beside Minho. They docked with the station carefully. Talvin assigned teams. He would lead the main team through the station's upper levels. Minho's team would investigate the lower maintenance sections where, according to the last transmissions, the convergence was first detected. The 6 of them entered the station through a maintenance airlock. The corridors were dark except for emergency lighting, casting everything in a sickly red glow. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floors. This feels wrong, Ven whispered. Her crystalline form seemed dim in the red light. Stay alert, Minho said, checking his weapon. He carried a standard plasma rifle, but his pack contained various improvised tools, chemical compounds, electronic components, flammable materials. Remember your training. If standard weapons fail, adapt. They moved through the corridors in formation, covering each other. Nala stopped at a control panel, interfacing with the station systems through her Velkari biological connections. The station's AI is offline, she reported. Not destroyed, just stopped. Like someone turned it off. Or something rewrote it, Hyan suggested grimly. They descended deeper into the station. The maintenance levels were a maze of pipes, cables, and access tunnels. Perfect ambush territory. Minho's instincts screamed danger, but his sensors showed nothing. Then Nala froze. Wait, I'm detecting unusual electromagnetic patterns. Very faint, but they're everywhere. In the walls, the systems, even the air recyclers. The convergence? Tyke asked. Must be. It's integrated into the station's infrastructure. As if responding to their discovery, the lights went out completely. Emergency power died. For a moment, they were in absolute darkness. Then their helmet lights activated, cutting narrow beams through the black. Weapons ready, Minho ordered quietly. The attack came from every direction at once. Things emerged from the walls, from ceiling panels, from floor grates. They were machines, but unlike any machines Minho had ever seen. They flowed like liquid metal, constantly shifting and reshaping themselves. Contact! Vorn shouted, firing his plasma rifle. The shot hit one of the machines, but the machine simply absorbed the energy and adapted. When Vorn fired again, the shot was deflected harmlessly. They're learning, Hyun yelled, switching to kinetic rounds. She fired her backup weapon, a human-designed slug thrower. The bullets tore through two machines before they could adapt. But then the machines shifted again, and subsequent bullets bounced off hardened surfaces. They're adapting too fast, Tyke said, backing toward the others as more machines surrounded them. Nothing works twice. This was what the briefing files had warned about. The convergence could analyze any attack and adapt within seconds. Standard tactics were useless. Predictable weapons were useless. Fall back to the service junction, Minho ordered. Defensive formation. They retreated to a wider section of corridor where multiple tunnels intersected. The machines followed, but not quickly. They were hurting the team, Minho realized. Studying their movements, learning. We can't fight them conventionally, Minho said. Ven, I need you to make copies of all of us. Confuse their sensors. Ven's body began to glow, and suddenly there were 6 illusory duplicates moving around the real team members. The machines hesitated, their attention divided. Nala, can you access any station systems from here? Maybe the atmospheric controls, Nala said, her manipulator appendages working frantically at a wall panel. What do you need? Smoke, gas, anything that disrupts visibility. On it. The machine started advancing again, targeting the real team members despite Ven's illusions. They were already adapting to filter out the false images. Vorn, remember the fire suppression exercise? Minho asked. Vorn's eyes glowed with understanding. You want me to build a catapult here? No. I want you to rip that pipe off the wall and use your bioelectric ability to superheat it. Make a brand. A what? A burning stick. The oldest weapon humanity ever invented. Vorn looked confused, but he grabbed a metal pipe and tore it free. Electricity crackled along his arms, flowing into the metal. The pipe began to glow red, then white-hot. Now what? Vorn asked. Now you hit them with something they can't adapt to because it's too simple. Vorn swung the superheated pipe like a club, striking the nearest machine. The metal didn't cut or shoot. It just burned. At a temperature the machine's adaptive systems hadn't encountered before. The machine's liquid metal body solidified and cracked. It worked, Vorn said, amazed. Keep using it, Minho ordered. But don't repeat the same attack pattern. Vary your swings. Nala got the atmospheric system working. Thick smoke began flooding the corridor, reducing visibility to almost nothing. The machine slowed, their sensors struggling with the sudden change. Hyun, Tyke with me, Minho said. We need to improvise weapons from what's here. Van, keep them confused with your illusions. Nala, cycle the atmosphere randomly. Keep changing conditions. Minho's mind raced. What was in a maintenance level? Cleaning supplies, lubricants, electrical systems, pressurized pipes. He started grabbing materials, his training taking over. Tyke, I need you to rig a feedback loop in that power conduit. Make it discharge randomly. That could blow up. That's the point. Just give us 30 seconds warning. While Tyke worked, Minho mixed chemicals from cleaning supplies. The convergence machines were adaptive, but they were still machines. They needed to calculate optimal responses. Human improvisation didn't give them time to calculate. Hyun found a coolant reservoir and a maintenance torch. Within seconds, she had created a pressure weapon that sprayed freezing liquid at high velocity. When it hit a machine, the liquid metal froze solid before it could adapt. "Keep moving," Minho shouted. "Don't let them predict your positions." The team fought in a chaotic, constantly changing pattern. Thorn with his burning pipe, varying his attack angles randomly, then creating illusions that appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Hyun freezing machines with her improvised cold spray, Nala cycling the atmosphere between normal air, smoke, and pure oxygen, and Minho at the center of it all, coordinating the chaos. He threw containers of chemicals that exploded or created choking fumes. He triggered Tyke's electrical traps at random intervals. He even tore ceiling panels down to change the terrain. The machines tried to adapt, but every time they adjusted to one threat, another appeared. They couldn't predict improvisation. They couldn't calculate creativity. Power conduit about to blow. Tyke warned, "Everyone down." The explosion was deafening. Electrical discharge filled the corridor, frying several machines. But more importantly, it knocked out power to an entire section of the station. In the sudden silence that followed, Minho checked his team. "Everyone was alive, covered in soot and various chemicals, but alive. Are they gone?" Fen asked, her light dim and flickering from exhaustion. "For now," Jan said. "But there are more in the station. We need to get to the command center and figure out what happened here." They moved carefully through the darkened station. Twice more they encountered convergence machines. Each time they fought using different improvised weapons and tactics. A chemical fire that burned too hot to analyze,